Good evening, students. Welcome to the live coaching classes organized by Board of Studies ICAI. It's good to come back for this online classes. Hope learning is going on with full josh. Yeah, okay. So before we start today's discussion, just for a formal confirmation, please let me know we are able to hear me, you're able to see my PowerPoint presentation, and everything is clear. And students, I have shared this PowerPoint presentation and MCQs for our practice purpose in today's material uploaded by Board of Studies. So you can download this PowerPoint presentation. You can also download the MCQs which are hosted on ICA Board of Studies website. So please let me know you have both the material on hand, and please confirm if you're able to hear me properly. Yeah, based on your confirmation, I'll go ahead with today's discussion. Yeah, good evening, Rashmi. Good evening, Sham. Good evening, Kaushik. Thanks for confirmation, Rashmi. Let's start our today's discussion. So, students, today's topic on hand, place of supply. Determination of the topic called place of supply. So, what we will do in this particular topic, that's place of supply. This is connected with your chapter number 4 of IGST Act. For determining the nature of supply, that is intrastate supply or interstate supply, we need to have the clarity on this topic called place of supply. So if you refer to section 7 of IGST Act, which talks about your interstate supply, and section 8 of your IGST Act talks about intrastate supply. If the supplier is in one state, the place of supply happens in a different state, then it's called interstate supply. If both the supplier and the place of supply happens to be in the same state, then it happens to be intrastate supply. So for determining this nature of supply, I repeat, for determining this term nature of supply, we have to depend on this topic called place of supply. So this is the idea why we have to learn this topic called place of supply. Today's session, I'm going to help you to understand the place of supply provisions for goods and for services. Both supply of goods, supply of services, which happen within India. I repeat, supply of goods, supply of services, which happen in India. We are going to understand the term, how the place of supply is identified. And students, you have to bear with me for today. Reason, I have a hoarse throat. There is, because of continuous cough and cold, there is little husky voice today. By next session, I'll be completely all right. So for today's session, you have to tolerate with me with this particular tone. So let's start with our today's discussion. Today's discussion, we are going to focus only on supply of goods or supply of services. Both of them happen to be a domestic supply. That means it's neither an export of goods nor import of goods. It's not export of service nor import of service, right? So for these transactions, we are going to understand how the nature of supply is determined. So in the process of learning this place of supply, today, we will understand the relevance of delivery, movement of goods, or admission to event, organizing a particular event, relevance of registration of the recipient of goods or recipient of services. Then in a supply, how do we identify what is the nature of supply? Is it a supply of goods or is it supply of services? We will understand all these elements in today's learning. Before I get into these definitions, let me give a couple of examples so that you will understand these examples in a better fashion. To make you understand this topic, I have few examples. First, we will discuss these examples. Then we'll come back to the topic. Hope this Excel file is visible to you, students. End of today's discussion. This Excel file will be hosted on the ICA website. Every class, what all examples I'm going to discuss, this Excel file is going to be the modus operandi. All these problems, I'll host it on the Board of Studies website. So let's start with the first example. Example number 1. A laptop battery is purchased or is sold for rupees 1,750, inclusive of taxes at shop. For every door delivery, a sum of rupees 300 is charged on the basis of distance. Does both the transactions qualify for same GST treatment? So here, in this example, if we go to a shop to buy a battery for the laptop, this battery's cost is 1,750. Instead of me going to the shop, if I place the order over phone or over email, this shop person is going to make a delivery at the doorstep. For the distance, he is going to charge something called transportation. So the question here is, in both the cases, will the treatment of GST, that is it going to be IGST? Is it going to be CGST, SGST? Is the question. Now, one thing we need to understand, after COVID, e-commerce and door delivery business have completely changed the way business is operating. Sitting in Maharashtra, I can purchase the goods from Madhya Pradesh. Sitting in Delhi, I can purchase the goods from Tamil Nadu. Sitting in Kerala, I can purchase goods from Karnataka. So the shop person also has to understand, is this the delivery happening within the state? Is this the delivery happening outside the state? If the sale happens at this doorstep, then one treatment. If the goods are going to travel out of the state, then the treatment has to be in a different fashion. So this example, we will come back after we study the definition of the provisions of place of supply. Okay. Then second example. Let me increase the screen size. Yeah. Mrs. ABC hospitals have their head office in Madhya Pradesh. They have branches in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Haryana. All goods or services are placed for order from head office on various suppliers for day-to-day supplies at head office, branches. For the suppliers, it is the head office which is there in Madhya Pradesh relevant for placing the delivery, or for the supplier is the place where the delivery happens. Is that relevant? So I'll make this example a little more easy to understand. Say Apollo hospitals, they have their head offices in Madhya Pradesh. Apollo Hospital has their branch Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Haryana. Whatever items are required for these branches, including head office, the head office is going to place the order. Assuming for a moment I am the supplier, I supply the goods to the state of Tamil Nadu. As a supplier, should I consider Tamil Nadu as a place of supply? Or as a supplier, since the order has been received from Madhya Pradesh, should I consider Madhya Pradesh as place of supply? So this is one question where we'll have an answer when we examine the provisions of place of supply. Third example. Mrs. Tooling Industries, a registered person in Karnataka, purchases steel from Mrs. Steel Tubes, a registered person in Karnataka, for 500 tons. Goods are sought for delivery directly at Mrs. Heater shop in Tamil Nadu for the initial job work purpose. Will this be considered as an intrastate supply by the supplier called Steel Tubes, or because the goods are delivered at a job worker premises in Tamil Nadu, will this be considered as a interstate supply? Now here, the goods doesn't come to the tooling industries who happens to be a purchaser. The goods directly go to a job worker premises. From job worker premises, after the job work is completed, it comes back to Karnataka. Job worker is located in Tamil Nadu. So how do we understand place of supply? So this is one another example. Then this is one example from a service point of view. Mr. Ram, a resident of Ayodhya, plans for an outbound trip to Sri Lanka. The service provider happens to be Mrs. Tour Planners. This service provider is a registered person in Rajasthan. And this tour to Sri Lanka is for the purpose of temple visit. So will this visit to Sri Lanka will be considered as export of service, or will it be a taxable service in India? How do we understand? When we get into the place of supply provisions, we will have a better understanding to answer all these questions, right? So let me come back to my presentation. Let me just have a quick look on the question window. Yeah. Thank you. Students, as I have informed, today alone, I request you to please bear with me for the husky voice because of the continuous cough I'm having, right? I'll try to do the justification for this 3 hours of learning as much as possible. Now, first definition for today's learning is on the topic called location of supplier of service. This definition of supplier of service, why is it relevant? How is it relevant? I'll give you a backdrop. In case of goods, every location can be identified from where goods are moved and where the goods are getting delivered. In case of services, it is very difficult to identify from where the services are being performed. Let's take a simple example. Say I'm a chartered accountant in practice. I have my head office in, say, Delhi. My firm has branches in Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Karnataka. When a stock audit has to be done for a particular bank called, say, Canara Bank. Canara Bank have their head office in Bangalore. Canara Bank places an order on my Delhi branch for conducting a stock audit. Now here, the team who sits in Delhi need not travel all the way from Delhi to Karnataka for conducting a stock audit. Rather, the branch in Karnataka can do this stock audit, right? Similarly, look at the service recipient point of view. To whom I'm rendering service and who's rendering service. That becomes crucial under service tax or GST law. So to put an end of litigation, this definition was defined in a best way possible to understand from where the service gets originated. So this definition, section 2, clause 15, which talks about location of supplier of service. So what do they say? It means supply is made, where a supply is made from a place of business for which registration has been obtained, location of such place of business. So here they have referred to something called place of business. They have referred to something called place of business. I have been registering Delhi, I have been registering Karnataka, I have been registering Madhya Pradesh. If I render this stock audit from a place of business called Karnataka, Karnataka has a registration. Then Karnataka happens to be my service provider, location of supplier of service. Where supply is made from a place other than place of business. for which registration has been obtained, that is a fixed establishment elsewhere. A fixed establishment elsewhere. Location of such fixed establishment. I'll give you an example to understand this particular point. Say, take example of L&T. L&T is into construction business. L&T has got main branch at, say, Bangalore. Part of a metro rail corporation construction project. From Bengaluru, so there is a 60 kilometers away where a site construction is being done. When a site construction is happening, they need to have the site where they stock their material, which is called as fixed establishment. Fixed establishment is a temporary place other than the main place of business. The term fixed establishment comes into picture to say where you have a fixed establishment, please consider that as the place of business. So the purpose here, if you have place of business, consider that. If you have a fixed establishment, and if that happens to be the point from where the service is being rendered, please consider that as your location of supplier. They say, sir, what if the supply is made from more than one establishment? If the supply is made from more than one establishment, that means like a point of 60 kilometers across Karnataka. Say I have 6 sites where I have this temporary establishment. All those sites, if I have registration, they say the site which is most directly connected, the site which is most directly concerned for what? For making the supply. For making the supply. So if I have 6 locations, one of the location happens to be a key location, then please consider that as a main location. Sorry, what if I don't have these? What if I don't have this place of business? I don't have this establishment. Then the location of usual place of residence, the location from where you are rendering your services, that happens to be your supplier of service. Location of supplier of service. So can you give an example for this last point? Let's take example of a chartered accountant who does this paper valuation. For a moment, I happen to be a chartered accountant. I don't do any business activity. I don't do any professional service. I am just an academician. As an academician, I teach in various coaching colleges. I teach at various tutorials. I also do paper valuation. In that case, the place of my residence happened to be the place where the supply is being rendered from. This is how I identify the location of a supplier of service. So students, this definition happens to be a simple definition. I would advise that whenever you're doing an audit, look at a bill, look at the registration. In services, how is the service provider saying that this is a location from where service is being provided? This becomes a key point for identification. Now, in the first example, Canara Bank asked me, that is my Delhi office, to do a stock audit. My Karnataka branch, Karnataka office did the stock audit. So when a bill has to be raised, as per this definition, since the service is rendered from Karnataka, location of supply of service happens to be Karnataka. This is one point we have to make a reference. Similarly, identifying location of recipient. Now, let's take the example Ulta. Sir, I'm a chartered accountant. I have a firm registered in Karnataka, having a place of business in Maharashtra and Haryana. 3 places I have my business. I go to the insurance company, say United India Insurance, I'll say, so please get me the life insurance coverage for all my employees. So all three locations put together, I have 75 employees. How do they identify recipient of service? Various supplies received at a place of business. Now, 75 employees, if I say, so 50 employees are pertaining to Delhi, 10 employees pertaining to Maharashtra, 10 employees pertaining to Karnataka. Then my place of business, Maharashtra, Delhi, Maharashtra, Karnataka shall be independent, for which registration has been obtained. So if the registration has been obtained, all three will be identified as a separate recipient. This is point number one. Point number two. Supplies received at a place other than place of business, for which registration has been obtained, that is a fixed establishment elsewhere. The location of such establishment. Location of such establishment. I'll come back to my L&T case. L&T has this site 60 kilometers from Bengaluru. And just to give a recap, recently there was a metro construction where the metro pillar has has took a little bend, whereby two passengers, mother and son, were killed in an accident where the metro pillar fell down on a motorist. Now, there is something called site. Whenever a construction happens at a site, insurance is a predominant requirement for that site. So when I say a site, site is a temporary location where I take a registration. That's called fixed establishment. That's called fixed establishment. When I take an insurance, I'll mention to United Insurance. See, I have my head office in Bengaluru. I have location 1, establishment 1, location 2, site number 2, location 3, that's site number 3. So wherever I have given various sites which is connected with this recipient, then that will be called as my recipient of service. So when United Insurance raises their invoice, they'll say, for this particular site, that is fixed establishment, this is a bill. That's the point number 2. Then, so what if there is more than one establishment? Say 6 sites are there. The establishment which is most directly concerned with the recipient of service. So here, when they give 6 addresses, L&T has to give which is the main establishment which seeks this particular service, because when L&T raises a bill, they have to identify. So look, I'm going to cover all 6 sites, but please give me the main location which is seeking for this coordination. That address they will mention in the invoice. This is the relevance for my location of recipient of service. So what if there is no place of business where registration is not there? There is an establishment, but there is no registration. There is no registration for my fixed establishment. In those cases, usual place of residence of the recipient, like your insurance case. Take example of your two-wheeler. When I go to the insurance company to buy a policy, the insurance company says, Praveen, I'll give you insurance. Please give me your residential proof. I'll give my Aadhaar copy. As per Aadhaar, the address which I have given, that will be called as a usual place of residence. Question comes here. So my Aadhaar card has address of Kerala, but I'm working in Tamil Nadu. What shall I do? What address proof you will give to say that you are residing in Tamil Nadu? I'll give my rental agreement. Though Aadhaar has got Kerala, I stay in Tamil Nadu, I give my rental agreement. Or I stay in Tamil Nadu, I have own property. I give a kata's proper shape, ownership details. That becomes my usual place of residence. So students, these two definitions in relation to service is very important for us to identify. Hope you have understood. Location of service provider, location of recipient of service. Then this is a definition called recipient of supply of goods or supply of services. This definition, recipient, why is it relevant? How is it relevant? When I go to my place of supply provisions, somewhere they use a term called recipient. We should know how this recipient has to be interpreted. I'll give an example before we go in depth of this definition. In the state of Andhra Pradesh, the company called A&I Technologies, Uber, Ola. This company called Ola have filed a writ petition with Andhra Pradesh High Court. What is that they have said? Sir, when we rendered the services, we have rendered the services within the state of Andhra Pradesh. But while paying the tax, we have wrongly interpreted Andhra Pradesh as to be outside Andhra Pradesh. Instead of paying SGST, CGST, Andhra Pradesh, I have paid IGST of the tax. I have paid the tax, but erroneously wrong tax has been paid. Why was that wrongly paid? Why was that excess paid? Erroneous interpretation. This term recipient has got a prominence to understand, has got importance to understand how to identify the recipient in relation to goods, in relation to services. Beginning of this session, I've said interpretation of this term, this provision called place of supply is very, very important for determining your nature of supply. Intrastate supply, interstate supply. So this company, A&I Technologies, they have said to the court, sir, I have paid the tax, but instead of paying SGST, CGST, I paid IGST. So the court have directed saying that, look, there was no confiscation, there was no fraud, there was no suppression. There was an erroneous interpretation whereby they have paid wrong tax. Court have directed, remit the proper tax, claim a refund of erroneous tax payment. That is importance of this term called recipient. So they say where a consideration is payable, money is payable for the supply of goods or services, the person who's liable to pay the consideration, that person shall be called as recipient. You remember one example I have given, Apollo hospitals, like they have a head office in, say, Maharashtra. Order is placed on the supplier from Maharashtra. Maharashtra is making the payment to the supplier. Then, by virtue of this definition, consideration is payable by a recipient. Person who is liable to pay, that shall be called as recipient. I'll give an example. Say there is a medicines required to for the purpose of rendering the services, hospital services. Supplier from say Delhi, supplier from Delhi supplies the medicines to Tamil Nadu, but raises bill to Maharashtra. Why? Maharashtra placed the order. The goods reach Tamil Nadu, the payment happens from Maharashtra. Though the goods were delivered in Tamil Nadu, since the money is being paid from Maharashtra, recipient happens to be Maharashtra. Why? Person who is liable to pay for that supply. Suppose if something goes wrong, we have something called any dispute. The jurisdiction under which the dispute will rest is within the state of Maharashtra. So here, if supplier has to file a legal suit, if the payment doesn't come, he cannot file a suit in the state of Tamil Nadu. He has to file a suit in the state of Maharashtra. Why? Bill was raised to Maharashtra, delivery happened to Tamil Nadu. Since the person responsible to make the payment, liable to make the payment, is from Maharashtra, that shall be called as recipient. This is your relevance of first point. Point number B. Point number B. When no consideration is payable, when I say no consideration is payable, what could be the cases? One is sample or gift or stock transfer. Why is there no consideration is payable? Refer to schedule number 1. Students, as I take you through this presentation, I'll be giving examples. I'll be making a reference to other provisions. Please make a running notes. Reason, this running notes will help you when you go to the other provisions to correlate all these provisions. Right? Now, consideration is not payable. Refer to schedule number 1 of the CGST Act. When you look into schedule number 1 of CGST Act, when there is a stock transfer from one branch to another branch, no consideration is payable. When there is a gift, no consideration is payable. When materials are given on sample basis, right? Again, no GST is payable. When material goods or services are rendered part of your CSR activity, like as a part of your CSR activity, you have distributed free laptops, right? These are all the cases where no consideration is payable. For supply of goods, so this point number is focusing only on supply of goods. The person to whom goods are delivered or made available. This is the crux. The goods are delivered, goods are made available. First example, stock transfer. I stock transfer from one state to another state. The state where you have delivered the goods, that happens to be a recipient. Goods are made available, that means to say, I have not delivered. I made the goods available. Customer came and picked up the material. Example. So I wanted to give 100 laptops to the particular schools, government aided schools in the state of Rajasthan. Infosys comes with a proposal saying that part of our CSR activity, we wanted to give 100 laptops or 100 tablets. These schools will be given to government aided schools of Rajasthan. They'll say the laptops are placed for delivery or made available at this location. Please go and pick up the material. That's called making available. So where there is no consideration, the person whom we are giving a delivery or the place where the goods are made available, that person will be called as a recipient. This is your point number 2. Point number C, where no consideration is payable for what? For supply of a service. I'm rendering services, but there is no consideration. What could be the example for this? Example number 1. I take example of Wipro. Wipro conducts free technical session on coding, say Java or Oracle. They say, as a part of our CSR activity, I render services to say this particular set of students or this particular set of people. That's called supply of service where there is no consideration. In that case, the person to whom the service is performed is called as recipient. Right? This is the importance of recipient. And any reference to a person, the term person, please expect a question for 3 marks, either in income tax or indirect tax. Person includes individual, HUF, partnership, AOP, BOI, LLP, incorporated, non-incorporated, judiciary person. All these are forming part of your person. And any reference to a person to whom supply is made shall be construed as a reference to recipient of supply and shall include agent acting as such on behalf of the recipient. Now, this is an example of Baylor Bailey. Example of Baylor Bailey. You remember the Contract Act? If a transporter picks the goods on behalf of the recipient, the transporter happens to be a Bailey. That reference of Baylor Bailey is referred in this term called the person includes any other person referred as agent acting as such on behalf of the recipient. So questions may come practically when you get in. So goods are picked up not by Infosys, not by Wipro, they transporter. How do I understand? Transporter is a Bailey. On behalf of Infosys, transporter is picking the material. So you will refer to Infosys as recipient. This is the importance of this definition called recipient. Hope you are clear with these definitions. Now, first categorization, I'll start with goods. Place of supply, section 10 talks about domestic supply, that is, transaction happens within India. This section 10 has 5 categorization. Section 10, subsection 1, clause A, B, C, D, E. Very simple, very easy to understand. Before I take this particular discussion, quickly, let me see if there are any questions posted on the question window. Kaushiki has posted one question. In case of more than one establishment, cannot we take recipient relevant to each establishment against it? No. Kaushik is asking this question where she says, so when we have, say, 5 establishments or 6 establishments, can I not consider each establishment separately? Answer, definitely yes, Kaushik, definitely yes. But what if? I cannot identify the value for each establishment. I'll give an example. Take example of insurance. In case of insurance, say loss of property. Insurance, when we take loss of property, I'll say every site has my plant and machinery, raw material, and stores, and loss of manpower. I'll say all 5 sites put together, value of my plant and machinery is 100 lakhs, value of my inventory is, say, 150 lakhs. Now this machinery keeps on moving from one site to another site, and all these 5 sites are in the state of Tamil Nadu. So at that point in time, Kaushiki, it's not feasible, it's not easy to split for each establishment. Right? So there are circumstances where I can take recipient for each establishment. There are circumstances I cannot split. I will join all those establishments together. Hope I've clarified your doubt, Kaushiki. Coming back, first place of supply for goods. So here, when we talk about place of supply for goods, they have identified the goods into 5 bases. How? 1, where there is a movement of goods. 2nd, delivery. 3rd, there is no movement. 4th, installation at a site. 5th, goods supplied on a boat, conveyance, etc. So all examples, whatever we talk with respect to sale of goods, can best fit into this 5 category, right? Now, when we talk about section 10, this section 10 is referring only to that supply which happens within India. Any supply which is outside India, I don't refer to section 10, I refer to section 11. With respect to inbound, with respect to outbound transactions, Monday we will have a detailed discussion. Clear? Coming back. Movement of goods. I'll give an example. The goods can get consumed only when there is a movement of goods. Without movement of goods, the goods cannot be consumed as such. Example. I'll give simple examples, students. We will understand when we go to the different provisions. Take example of sugar cane. Sugar cane, from sugar cane, we take the pulp, we take the juice. This juice is relevant for me to prepare jaggery or sugar. Sugar or jaggery, which is made out of sugar cane, cannot be prepared unless it is moved out of the agriculture produce, that is the agriculture land, to the factory, right? So if there is a sugarcane mill, the sugarcane produced from the fields have to be moved to the factory. That's called movement of goods. Second example, supply where there is a delivery. There is a movement of goods. In this second scenario, the goods are delivered. Now, the consumption may happen at that point, consumption may happen at a different point. Delivery of goods is something which is important. Example for point number B. When we talk about this point number B, let's take one example. Say, Jindal Steel. Ashok Leland manufactures a trailer. You see this tipper or lorry. Most of these heavy vehicles are manufactured by a company called Ashok Leland. Ashok Leland requires steel for preparing the tiller, the what you call the chassis. This iron beams are made out of steel. For a moment, if we assume Jindal Steel happens to be the supplier, Jindal Steel have to deliver the goods to Ashok Leland. Jindal Steel may deliver at the factory of Jindal Steels, may deliver at the factory of Ashok Leland, may deliver at the job worker premises of Ashok Leland. So when we talk about delivery, those business scenario, most of them, this B2B connected examples, delivery is something which is important. Delivery is something which is important. So this categorization, wherever we refer to this term delivery, I fall back to this provision called section 10, subsection 1, clause B. Next, category number C. Those cases of supply where there is no movement. Those cases of supply where there is no movement. Now, what could be the example? Take example of your that's what you call consumption inside. Say you have your vegetables, like your fruits. When I go to a particular shop, I buy a kg of apple. I buy banana. I can consume the banana at that particular shop. I can take banana back to my home. I didn't give example of food. Reason, supply of food is considered as service as per schedule number 2. So let's not refer to the ice cream or chocolates or this food which is served at restaurant. These items which are for human consumption, items which are meant for human consumption as per schedule number 2 is deemed to be a service. So in relation to goods, there could be cases where there is no movement. Then I refer to clause number C. Another example, like when I go to this provision, I'll give you a best example to make you understand. Point number D. Goods are assembled, installed at site. I need goods, but how the goods have to be assembled or installed at site. In that case, I refer to provision under clause D. Next, clause number E. Goods are supplied on board or on conveyance. Like when you get into this travel, these days, you are once you get into this what do you call Vande Bharat, the fast-moving train launched called Vande Bharat. They supply food, which is called service. They supply goods on this train. For a moment, I got into this train called Vande Bharat. I forgot to carry my mobile charger. There is a seller in this train who sells your mobile charger. Sale of this charger is called supply of goods. So any supply which happens on a board or on conveyance. Similarly, when you get into flight, when you get onto the flight, there are goods which are sold. Like example, you have this imitation jewelry. You have this electronic gadgets. They say, so there is a scheme which is going on. If you buy these electronic gadgets, you get 50% discount. So any goods which are sold on board or conveyance, that is covered under clause E. This is a broad categorization or bifurcation of your supply. Do you have any supply which comes to your mind which doesn't fit into this definition? By and large, the lawmaker have done their best way to classify the nature of supply. Now let's get into one by one with detailed understanding. Supply which involves movement. Supply which involves movement. Section 10, subsection 1, clause A. So when there is a supply, where there is a movement of goods, what do they say? Whenever there is a movement of goods, supply which involves movement of goods, whether by the supplier or whether by the recipient or by any other person. Remember the definition of recipient, any other person, bailer, bailee concept. When I say any other person, bailee happens to be an other person, transporter, that is what they are referring to. This movement can happen by the supplier. This movement can happen by the recipient himself. Movement can happen by any other person. The place of supply of such goods shall be location of the goods, the time at which movement of the goods terminates. Look at the term. Movement of the goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. So when there is a movement of goods, the goods terminates for movement for delivery to the recipient. So whenever there is a movement of goods, they say, please refer to this provision. Please refer to this provision. The point where the movement terminates, that shall be called your place of supply. This particular provision, important aspect for you is termination of movement. Termination of movements for what? For delivery to recipient. By and large, we apply this provision to all B2C cases. We refer to this provision all for B2C transactions. So why not B2B transactions? I'll come in a while. Wait for the next provision. As of now, whenever we talk about this section 10, subsection 1, clause A, movement of goods, back of mind, you can keep this reference to B2C. Let me come to my Excel file for making it to understand. Now, you remember this example, students? Laptop battery is sold for rupees 1,750, which includes taxes at shop. For every door delivery, sum of rupees 300 is charged on the basis of distance. Now, the moment I make a sale, I use the battery for my laptop. Now, this, if I say door delivery, from the seller's point of view, till the goods are not delivered to the doorstep, the moment doesn't get terminated. So the moment gets terminated if the sale happens at the shop, the moment gets terminated when it gets delivered at the doorstep. So here what they say, the point where the delivery happens, that is called as your place of supply. In case of door delivery, I prepare a bill, my name and address of the shop, name of the customer, the delivery location with address. So when I deliver at that location, that particular location will be identified as my place of supply. I'll come to this example this way. Seller registered person, say Rajasthan. Buyer, unregistered person in Uttar Pradesh. So when the seller makes a door delivery to this buyer in Uttar Pradesh, this is a door delivery supply. Scenario 1. If it's a door delivery, the place of supply happens to be, since the movement of goods terminate for movement at Uttar Pradesh, my place of supply happens to be Uttar Pradesh. Supplier is in Rajasthan, place of supply happens to be Uttar Pradesh. What do we call this? We call this as interstate supply. Scenario 2. It's a delivery at, or I'll say sale at. That means customer comes to the shop, he purchases the battery. Then seller will say, so look, I have to sell the goods, I have sold the goods at my location. Then my place of supply happens to be Rajasthan. Reason? The seller, the buyer, seller doesn't know whether buyer is taking back to Uttar Pradesh, buyer is consumed in Rajasthan, buyer is taking it to Delhi. It's highly impossible. So for all permutations and combinations, we say the delivery, the sale happens at the shop. That's called Rajasthan. Seller is Rajasthan. The place of supply is Rajasthan. Nature of transaction, intrastate supply. Intrastate supply. Coming back. Clause B. Supply where there is a delivery of goods. So what is the difference between movement and delivery? Movement, that's indicating that there is a point where the movement is going to get terminated. But when I refer to the term delivery, I transfer the ownership at a particular point. I deliver the goods. You do whatever you want to do from that particular point. Let's read the provision and understand how to apply this provision. Where goods are delivered by supplier. Delivered by supplier. So here, supplier is taking the responsibility to deliver the goods to a recipient or any other person. Recipient or any other person. When I say recipient, recipient is person who's liable to pay or any other person. When I refer to the term called any other person, please understand this relationship bailiff. This any other person, independent person, or could be a bailee, could be a agent of the principal. Recipient come and take the delivery, or the transporter can come and take the delivery. On the direction of a third person, on the direction of third person. Now, goods are delivered by the supplier. To whom? Goods are delivered to recipient or any other person on the direction of a third person. Direction of a third person. So here, this gentleman is giving an instruction. This gentleman, who is the gentleman? Third person. A, B, C. A, supplier. B could be a recipient. B could be a other person. C is the third person. Whether acting as a any other person acting as an agent or otherwise, before or during the movement of goods, either by way of transfer of documents to the goods or otherwise, it shall be deemed that the same third person has received the goods. It shall be deemed that the same third person has received the goods. Please understand this particular provision. Whenever there are three parties, the third person is giving an instruction to the first person. For what? Giving a delivery to the recipient. Then the place of supply shall be principal place of business of such person. So they're saying that whenever there is a delivery, the goods are delivered by the supplier. The goods are delivered by the supplier to whom? To a recipient of third person. It is deemed. It's a deemed fiction. The principal place of business of such person shall be the place of supply. I'll give you an example to make you understand this particular provision. Supplier, recipient, third person. Say, supplier happens to be the steel manufacturer. And the third person, for a moment, Ashok Leland happens to be a third person. Recipient could be transporter. Recipient could be a job worker on behalf of, or this could be, say, scenario 1. So in this scenario, Ashok Leland places order on the manufacturer of steel for what? Saying that please supply the goods to recipient, but please reserve bill on me. Ashok Leland says, look, Mr. Jindal Streets, please deliver the goods to so-and-so recipient. However, raise a bill on me. In this scenario, they say the place of business of Ashok Leland shall be the place of supply. For a moment, if the supplier is in the state of Gujarat, Ashok Leland happens to be in Karnataka, and the job worker is in the state of Tamil Nadu. So here, the place of supply shall be Karnataka. The place of supply happens to be Karnataka. So the law says all your B2B transactions where goods are delivered by the supplier to a recipient, the goods are handed over to the recipient, goods are given to any other person who acts as a agent or otherwise. Look at that third person who gave the instruction. So how do I know all these transactions? When you look at a bill, bill says bill from, ship from, bill to, ship to. Now there are 4 transactions. From where I'm billing, I have a corporate office in Gujarat. I have a plant, say at a location other than my head office in Gujarat. So I'll say my works, that is the site from where the manufacture happened, from the corporate office, I'm billing to Ashok Leland in Tamil Nadu. Sorry, I'm billing to Ashok Leland in Karnataka, but I'm delivering the goods to the job worker in Tamil Nadu. In this case, the address which is called as bill to is relevant for my place of supply. This is example number 1. Example number 2, I'll slightly alter this example this way. So there is a supplier of steel or I'll say plywood. Say Neelam. Neelam happens to be a supplier, registered person in, say, Goa. There is a recipient called, Mrs. Buyer, registered person in, say, Andhra Pradesh. There is a third person called Mr. Seller, or I'll say Mr. Dealer. This dealer is a registered person in Kerala. Right? Now, in this example, the dealer places order on supplier called Neelam. What he says, please deliver 1,000 sheets of plywood. 1,000 sheets of plywood to my customer, Mr. Buyer in Andhra Pradesh. Please deliver. However, please raise an invoice on me. Please raise an invoice on me in Kerala. Now, this is called your sale in transit. What happens here? All your wholesale business, instead of getting the material all the way from Goa till Kerala, again sending it back to Andhra Pradesh, I'll pick the material in Goa. I'll say, so please send the goods to the buyer in Andhra Pradesh. I'll exchange the documents. You remember this definition? Let me come back to the presentation. In the presentation, in this provision, you see, either by way of transfer of documents to title to the goods. So in case where there is a transfer of document for what? Title to the goods. Where? During the movement or otherwise. During the movement or before. I can transfer the ownership before the goods leave from Goa, or once the goods are leaving from on the way from Goa to Kerala, I inform the truck driver, don't come to Kerala, please give a delivery in Andhra Pradesh. Right? Let me come back to my Excel file. Yeah. So here, the section 10, subsection 1, clause B says, in this case, the place of supply of third person, that is a third party, shall be Kerala. Supplier is in Goa. The delivery happens to be, the place of supply is Kerala. This is called interstate supply. Now, the same example, I alter slightly. I call this as scenario number 3. Students, kindly note, there's a lag of 10 to 15 seconds. If you have posted any question, it gets visible only after a lag of 10 to 15 seconds. In the process of discussion, whatever doubts you have, feel free to put it to the question window. I'll clarify all of your doubts. In scenario number 3, assuming for a moment, this also happens to be a Goa. Seller is in Goa. Seller, that is Mrs. Neelam Plywoods. I call this as Mrs. Neelam Plywoods. My seller is in Goa. My customer buyer is also in Goa. But this goods, like in this case, if you look at my invoice, billing information or billing details, bill from, ship from, bill to, ship to. Though the goods doesn't leave Goa, what does my provision says? Look at my provision. Provision clearly says, place of supply of such goods shall be principal place of business of such third person. Principal place of business of such person. When I say such person, that is your third person. Because this third person happens to be in Kerala, though from Goa, the goods are going to Goa, this provision says Kerala happens to be my place of supply. Because Kerala happens to be my place of supply, it shall be called as interstate supply. It will not be intrastate supply. Let me see if there are any questions so far. Yeah. Kaushik says it's a build to ship to model. Perfectly correct, Kaushik. This is a build to ship to model. And there are no questions. So let's continue with our discussion. Moving further, where there is no movement of goods. Supply where there is no movement of goods. So the provision says there is a supply. This is a supply. When there is a supply, it does not involve movement of goods, whether by the supplier or recipient. Now, this is a peculiarity. There is a supply, but there is no movement required, neither by the seller nor by the recipient. What they say, the place of supply shall be location of such goods at the time of delivery to the recipient. So they say, what is the location? That shall be your place of supply. The goods where it is located, that shall be called as your place of supply. Now, sir, can there be a transaction? Can there be a supply where there is no movement itself? Answer is yes. Can you give an example? Let's come to an Excel file. Example for no movement. Students, all these examples are very easy to understand. Examination, any questions in any direction, you will be, if you understand this example, you can easily correlate and get the answer for the provision concern. Say there is a supply of DG set. Supply of a DG set. What is a DG set? DG set happens to be a diesel generating set. When the power goes off, automatically switchover happens using the DG set. If you happen to visit this big apartments or a big mall, there is a power backup or a DG set. This DG set will be at the beginning of the this shopping complex or mall or the apartments. Now, this DG set is sale of goods. Now, I'll give example this way. So there is a owner or there is a tenant called Mrs. XYZ Limited. There is an owner by name. This is say landlord. And there is one more tenant called Mrs. PQR Limited. Now, Landlord lends his property. Landlord lends his property to Mr. Tenant called Mrs. XYZ Limited. XYZ happens to be a registered person in, say, Tamil Nadu. Landlord happens to be a registered person in Tamil Nadu. This tenant XYZ Limited has taken the property for his software business. So there are there is a big building, floor number 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 floors are there, which are occupied by this tenant called XYZ Limited. This landlord says, look, I'll just give a building. Whatever infrastructure you want, please get it done by yourself. Interiors, this DG set as a power backup, all it is at your cost. This XYZ got occupied the building. After a span of 9 months, he felt that he doesn't need a floor. So he has vacated 1 floor, he continued 3 floors. After a span of another 2 months, he felt another 2 floors are not required, he vacated 3 floors. He left with only 1 floor. Example, recession, which is happening in US. US is a classic example where left and right, the software companies are laying off employees every day. And this company, assuming they have a tie-up with this some multinational companies, they also have to lay off. They have reached a position where they were not in a position to use that particular building. They have a choice. When XYZ Limited is going to vacate the premises, they can vacate the premises, dismantle this DG, take this DG along with them. There is a new tenant called PQR Limited. This tenant served a notice. This tenant PQR Limited shown interest to take this particular property. So here, this particular XYZ Limited has a choice to dismantle and take back this DG set, or sell this DG set, or sell this particular DG set to this tenant called PQR Limited. Now, the original cost, say, is 35 lakh. For replacement, it may cost around, say, 28 lakhs. Now, XYZ Limited are not in a position to take this DG set and use elsewhere. They have manpower, only 1 floor is required, and this DG set is in a higher power capacity. For them, it is not required. At any cost, they have to dismantle the DG set. So XYZ Limited gets into a supply. It's called supply of goods. When XYZ Limited sells this DG set to PQR Limited, this provision, supply involving no movement comes into picture. Supply involving no movement comes into picture. Why? Because this DG set is going to be there. This old tenant is going to sell this DG set to the new tenant. Because there is no movement, neither by the supplier nor by the recipient, the location at where when the supply happened, location happens to be that property, that's Tamil Nadu. Then the same place of supply happens to be So this is an example where supply happens, no movement is required in that particular scenario. Hope this is clear, students. Let us go further. Scenario number D, where supply involves assembly or installation. Supply involves assembly or installation. DG set is a diesel generator set. It is a power backup caution. Now, scenario number 4, where there is a supply and this supply is involving assembly or installation. We will take a simple example for correlation. If you imagine, if you happen to see this petrol tank, the petrol bunk. In case of a petrol bunk, what we see is this filling rods. When a vehicle comes and stops at the petrol bunk, they take the nozzle, they just pump the petrol or diesel into the vehicle. This nozzle, that particular instrument, what we see physically, beneath the petrol bunk, there will be a big tanker. There will be a big tanker. Like we have this bowl, what we call as Akshaya Patra, a bowl which is used to store water, fluids. Beneath the ground, we need to have this tanker. This tank is made of steel structures. So here, wherever there is a supply, from the seller's point of view, seller says, look, I'm going to sell the petrol tanker or the tanker. But this tanker cannot come as it is. What is required? The tanker needs to be assembled or installed inside. Example number 1, your petrol bunk. Example number 2, windmill. If you see the windmill, it's the fan which gets rotated. Every blade is required to carry separately. So the windmill, what we see, cannot be sold as it is. The seller of windmill, what he will do, he will raise an invoice for supply. But this windmill needs to be assembled or installed at a site. So what they say, in case of your supply, that is installation at site, the place of supply shall be the place of such installation or supply. For a moment, Kirloskar has a manufacturing factory in Maharashtra. And this Kirloskar has a space, wide open space, where they wanted to install windmills. Kirloskar placed order on their manufacturer, say in the state of Tamil Nadu. When the windmill has to move from Tamil Nadu to Maharashtra, the location where this windmill is installed, that should be considered as your place of supply. So here they say, look at the place where the installation happens, that should be your place of supply. Hope this is clear, students. Now we will come to the last limb of your supply of goods. The sale of goods, like we discussed the example of Vande Bharat or the antique jewelry or imitation jewelry or electronic gadgets which are sold on a flight. What does the provision say? Where goods are supplied, where on a conveyance or a vessel or an aircraft or a motor vehicle. So you have example of train, bus, the train, the aeroplane or the flight, where goods are supplied on these moving transportation. Like example, this Vande Bharat. From Kashmir, when the train reaches to Thane, the train is passing through various states. How do I identify where the sale happens? When the flight moves from Bengaluru to New Delhi, the flight moves across Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, then finally reaches Delhi. So in these cases, they say the place of supply shall be location at which such goods are taken on board. So the point when I have taken those goods on board, that shall be the place of supply. So this location shall be your place of supply. So how do we track? What is the procedure? Generally, whenever we take these goods meant for supply on board, conveyance, vehicle, or the train, there is an entry, the business itself mentions, this is meant for sale on board, conveyance, etc. They will mention a record at this particular location and to this flight, to this train, to this vehicle. This is a stock which have loaded. At the end of the trip, they take an inventory. how many goods were loaded, how many goods were left out. The goods which were sold out of the pending inventory, that goods, they raise an invoice saying that the place of supply is from that particular point where the goods are taken on board. This is the place of supply in relation to my goods. Before I go to my place of supply for services, let me know if you have any doubts with respect to these 5 transactions. I see the question window is empty. The question window is empty. Okay. There's one question from Kaushiki. The place where goods are taken on board, the goods where goods are taken on board, where destination is, the point at which the goods are taken on that vehicle shall be the place of supply. Kaushiki. Example, at Bengaluru, before the flight takes off, I have loaded 10, electronic gadgets. When the flight reaches Delhi, 6 gadgets were sold. Only 4 are remaining. Where did I boarded these gadgets? At Bengaluru. It's a place of supply happens to be Karnataka. That's how we have to take into consideration. Apart from that, there are no other questions. I hope the discussion is clear and everyone is understanding. If too many questions, you're on track. No questions, everything is crystal clear. At the same time, there's nothing to understand. So I hope you are understanding, and examples and concepts, what I'm explaining is easy for you to understand the concepts. Now, let's move on to the services part. We will have a break, maybe around 7:30 or 7:40. We'll have a break for 10 minutes and we will resume back. We'll continue the discussion. Place of supply for domestic services. Place of supply for domestic services. Now, we have understood for goods. We have understood for goods that there are 5 category of identification where there is a movement, where there is a delivery, where there is no movement, where it is meant for installation, where it is meant for supply on board, conveyance, etc. Similarly, in case of services, there are 14 bases of bifurcation. When you look at this section 12 of IGST Act, Section 12 of IGST Act deals with identification of place of supply for domestic services. When I say domestic services, service provider is in India, service recipient is in India. The services rendered are all happens to be in a taxable territory called India. Definition for taxable territory, definition for nautical miles, definition for this what you call territorial waters. These are all very, very simple definitions. Expect a question for 2 to 3 marks in your final, especially territorial waters, taxable territory. These are all short definitions forming part of a main question. So to start with, my section 12 deals with services, And these services where service provider, service recipient are in India. There are 14 subsections, right from section 2 till subsection 14. These list of services they have identified to say how to determine the place of supply for various services. Now, like goods, whatever services comes to your mind, examine this bracket, examine this list, that is subsection 3 till subsection 14. If you find your list of services right from subsection 3 till subsection 14, you can identify place of supply. If you don't get your service identified in those category, then you will come to this ancillary subsection called subsection 2. Students, there was one mistake happened. The material which is hosted on the website, this term is written as rule. Please read that as a subsection. This term section should be read instead of rule. So if you don't have your services fitting into this list identified from subsection 3 to subsection 14, then you will fall back to this ancillary rule or general rule called section 2, subsection 2. In subsection 2, they say, my place of supply shall be, if your recipient is a registered person, location of such person. They say, you look into subsection 3, 4, 5, 6, so on, so forth, 14. You don't get your answer. You don't get your answer means the service on hand does not find its place in any of those services. Then you come to this subsection 2, look at this provision, and this provision gives you a clarity how to identify your place of supply. So it says, if your recipient is a registered person, location of such person. This is your point number 1. So what if my recipient is not registered? If my recipient is not registered person, then address of the recipient of service, where there is a existence on record. Find out the address of that recipient. What address you have, that should be called as your place of supply. Say, I don't have a record, then location of supplier of service. Location of supplier of service. I'll give an example. You have this Book My Show. When I go to this Book My Show app, I purchase a ticket for a movie. When I purchase a ticket, it doesn't ask your name, your address, your location, etc. Because I cannot keep a track for those transactions. The moment I ask more and more information, probably I will not get the customer to come and buy. Or take another example. I go to a theater, I buy a ticket. When I buy a ticket, I cannot ask each and every customer, give me your address proof. So there are business where I don't fit into the second limb, rather I fit into the third limb. So in case of a third limb, they say the location of supplier of service shall be called as place of supply. So when I visit a theater, the location where service provider is there, that should be called as place of supply. Right? So this is how my general rule talks about identification of place of supply. Students, are you clear with this general rule? Recipient registered, recipient not registered. If recipient is registered, the place of business, the location of such recipient shall be called your place of supply. If recipient is not registered, the address what I have on record shall be taken into consideration. So it's not possible to trace the address, location of supplier. For scenario number two, insurance. When I buy my vehicle insurance, when I go to buying the insurance, it says name, Praveen, age, I'll mention. Address, I'll say this is my address. What is address proof? So this is my address proof, Aadhaar card. So where there is a record, then I'll take that address of the recipient. Where it is not possible, then I don't take that into consideration. Straight away I'll go for limb number 3. Let me know, are you clear with this subsection 2 before we go to the other ancillary provisions? Students, I'm going very slow so that you will not have any confusion and you're clear with this explanations. Bhowmic has Dhruti has asked this question: what will be the place of supply for booking for Book My Show as tickets are booked online? Now, now Book My Show happens to be an e-commerce operator. I gave this example. Dhruti. In case of e-commerce operator, where Book My Show does this thing, the theater is owned by, say, for a moment, Sham or Rashmi happens to be the theater owner. Rashmi says, look, I am a theater owner in the state of Punjab, and I want to sell my movie theaters on this e-commerce operator business. And customers can purchase the tickets through this e-commerce operator called Book My Show. Book My Show has to deduct something called TCS. Section 52 deals with TCS concept. So here we go with this provision, section 12, subsection 2, where none of the theater owners collects the address of the customer. It will be all B2C transaction, where the theater owner says, where my theater is registered, that shall be my place of supply. So it will say SGST, CGST. So Book My Show does not collect GST directly from customer. Whatever theater owner says on the basis of the ticket, like if the ticket cost is less than 100, more than 100, or multi-screen, based on your capacity, there is a different rate prescribed. Book My Show just collects the money on behalf of theater owner. This theater owner, assuming Rashmi happens to be the theater owner, Rashmi charges SGST, CGST, and that will be reported by Book My Show. So Book My Show just happens to be an e-commerce aggregator. Hope this discussion is clear, Dhriti. Great. Next. I come to the next discussion called immovable property. Immovable property. Students, we are at 7:30. What we will do, we will have a break for 10 minutes or say 8 minutes. It's 7:32. Let's have a break at now, and 7:40 we will resume back our discussion, right? 7:40 sharp, let us resume back. We'll continue with our discussion on place of supply for domestic services. So here, the first entry, you remember I have said entry number 3 till entry number 14. The first entry, subsection 3, talks about immovable property. So it says, any services rendered by architect, interior decorator, surveyor, engineer, in any other related experts or estate agents. Grant of right to use immovable property for carrying out coordination of construction work. I have split this E into two aspects. One is regular services, another is construction related activity. Grant of right to use immovable property, that is, when a builder approaches the landlord, that's called grant of right to use immovable property, or a tenant gets a right for access for carrying out coordination of construction work. So all these services, design by architect, decoration by interior decorator, survey of land, survey of empty barren land, any services rendered by engineer, all this in connection with immovable property. Further, services of lodging, services of accommodation by a hotel, inn, guest house, motel, by whatever name called, and includes a houseboat or any other vessel. Includes a houseboat or any other vessel. So here they have been referring to the accommodation service. Whenever we talk about accommodation service, the aspects come into sight with respect to hotel, with respect to inn, guest house, or a club, or a homestay. All these activities are again interconnected with something called immovable property, right? Now, these are set of services in relation to immovable property. Next. By way of accommodation in an immovable property, for organizing any marriage or reception or matters relating thereto, or official, social, cultural, religious, or business function, including services provided in relation to such function at such property. Further, any services ancillary to the services referred to A, B, C, what they say, in those cases, my place of supply shall be location at which immovable property or boat or vessel is located. I'll give example for this entry number C. It will be easy for you to correlate. There is one more entry called organizing an event. Don't get confused with organizing and with this entry. Most of you who are familiar with Delhi, there's a place called Connaught Place. Connaught Place is a place where most of these business meetings do happen. It's one of the richest most happening business place, Connaught Place. Assuming there is a hotel, Hotel Ashok, Lalit Ashok. Lalit Ashok at Connaught Road was picked up for a marriage. So when a person picks up this place called Hotel Lalit Ashok for the purpose of conducting a marriage, they also need to have the hall decoration, the what you call event management in that particular hall, all services ancillary, incidental to this function, this event called marriage. What do they say? Any services ancillary to the services referred to A, that is services in relation to services in relation to the immovable property, that is provided by architect or engineer, or services in relation to your accommodation, services in relation to conducting an event by virtue of this accommodation. All these activities have a place of supply, which is referred to the location where such immovable property is located. So in simple, wherever we refer to immovable property, services in relation to immovable property, where the property is located, that shall be the place of supply. Examples. A director of a company from Kerala travels to Mumbai for a business purpose. He stays in a hotel in Mumbai. This gentleman, though he hails from Kerala, though he is registered in Kerala, since he has taken an accommodation in Mumbai, they say the place of supply happens to be Mumbai. Service providers in Mumbai, place of supply is in Mumbai. SGST, CGST will be charged. Right? That's how we need to understand. Second, so there is a family who wanted to have this. These days we have outdoor marriages. We call destination marriages. So destination theme where the family, extended family, travel to a remote location far away from the city. The entire family stays there, maybe for a week's time, for all the event to get over. So those places, those events, they say, if there is an accommodation provided for what? For organizing a marriage, then they say this is called location of immovable property is a place of supply. Now, question comes here is, have I taken a hotel? Have I taken a stay house? Have I taken a party hall for conducting this event? Or have I given something to event manager? If it is organizing an event, organizing event doesn't fall under this entry. If I have chosen, I need Hotel Lalit Ashok, I need Hotel JJ Marriott, I need this particular Sunrise Hotel, I have chosen an immovable property, then the marriage decorator, etc. falls in place. Then entry number 3 comes into picture. Sir, I have not chosen a this hotel. I have not chosen this. Rather, I have chosen a person called event manager. I have given a task to event manager for destination marriage, destination theme-based marriage. He can take me to Kerala. He can take me to Rajasthan. He can take me to Jammu and Kashmir. There we go along with family, extended family, stay there. Then this entry does not fit in over there. This is how we need to understand. Right? Entry in relation to immovable property, where the immovable property is located, that shall be relevant for my identification. Moving on. Entry looks simple, but there is little complexity attached to this. There's one provision where, in addition to immovable property, there is a reference to a boat or a vessel. Boat or a vessel. People who have visited Kerala, boathouse is a attraction. Like now, people say it's a God's own country. People visit there for holiday purpose. Among them, floating boat. You visit Kashmir, you visit Kerala. These two places you have this floating boats. So wherever the boat is located, that should be called as your place of supply. So what if the boat from Kerala, say it gets into the from Kerala gets into say the Tamil Nadu state. Then from Tamil Nadu state it goes to say Visakhapatnam through the border beach like Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. Across the border from Kerala, they take me to say Chennai. From Chennai, Tamil Nadu, it will take me to Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. How do I identify my place of supply? Reason, it's a moving boat. This is one of the theme-based or event-based attraction for moving boat or vessel. So when the journey happens across states, what I have to do? How do I identify my place of supply? In that case, my rule 4, IGST rules has a reference to this rule 4 where it guides how do I identify my immovable property. How do I identify my place of supply? I'll give an example. So I have chosen, say, a particular accommodation with a Taj group of hotels. Taj group of hotels. I'm a businessman. I have business meetings across South India. I have my head office in Haryana. For a part of my business work, I travel to Kerala. Kerala to Tamil Nadu, Tamil Nadu to Andhra Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh back to Goa, Goa to Maharashtra, Maharashtra back to Haryana. So when I travel all the states, I stay with hotel, like Taj group of hotels. I sign a contract with Taj group of hotels in Haryana, saying that wherever I go, I place a request with you. Please accommodate me with a single booking. I don't want to raise a booking at each state. Now, in this case, though I have placed an order at Taj group of hotels in Haryana, since the stay happens in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Goa, then back to Haryana, every such state, the number of days you stay, that will be considered for identifying place of supply. Usually you stay 10 days. Out of 10 days, proportionately, 2 days in Kerala, 2 days in Andhra Pradesh, 2 days, say 3 days in Goa, and 4 days or balance days in Maharashtra. Based on the number of days, I identify, and that shall be my place of supply. So when I raise a bill, I'll say, each state, this is the services rendered, and this is my bill amount to be billed to the customer with respect to immovable property accommodation in multiple states. This is with respect to immovable property in multiple states. Now, what if there is a property located in 2 or more contiguous states? If there is a property which is located in 2 or more contiguous states or union territory. I'll give an example. I am a surveyor. I do a land survey. The national highway authorities have got a contract to lay a national highway between the state, like say from Andhra Pradesh to the state of Kerala. So when I have to lay this highway right from Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, then Karnataka, again Tamil Nadu, Kerala. This proportion of road which I have to lay, I have to do a survey. As a surveyor, I do a survey of the land which belongs to central government. When I do a survey of say 130 kilometers, if you happen to visit Tirupati, I don't know how many of you have visited Tirupati. Tirupati is a place where Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, all these 3 states are close by. And if you happen to visit by a national highway, at a junction, you will see this direction towards Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. So as a surveyor, when I survey a land where it is a contiguous land, what they say, in case if there is an immovable property which is contiguous, based on the length of the land in each state. So look at each state or look at each territory, the portion out of 130 kilometers, how much falls in Andhra Pradesh, how much of land in Tamil Nadu, how much is in, say, Karnataka. That shall be called as your place of supply. As a surveyor, for a moment, if I'm registered in Tamil Nadu, what I will say, to the extent of Andhra Pradesh, the place of supply happens to be Andhra Pradesh. The extent in Tamil Nadu, place of supply Tamil Nadu. To the extent in Karnataka. It could be an interstate, it could be intrastate. So when I raise a bill on national highway authorities. On the basis of proportion of land, I identify based on kilometers. So this is also over. What about your houseboat? What about your vessel? You have provided hotel accommodation. You have provided this logic facility. Most of you who are looking for holiday, spending holidays, this boating has come with a new innovative way. The boat starts from Vishakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. It goes to Tamil Nadu, stays there for 2-3 days. They'll show you the beaches nearby. From there, they'll take you to the backwaters of Kerala. Again, they will make you to stay for 2 days. Again, you will come back to Tamil Nadu. From there, come back to Vizag. 14 days is a total trip where they'll say these many nights, these many days, all this is a package. So when there is this sort of thing, they say on the basis of time spent in each state, that shall be taken into consideration to identify the place of supply. If the boat stays in Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh for 3 days, if the boat stays in Tamil Nadu for 2 days, and the rest in Kerala, based on the proportion of total 14 days, you will identify your place of supply. So section 12 identifies immovable property. Any services in relation to immovable property by architect, engineer, surveyor, or construction related accommodation with conducting an event. All these cases, they say where immovable property is located, that shall be your place of supply. Hope this is clear, students. Let me see if there are any questions before we go further. Kaushik is saying that catering is covered in clause D. Which clause D? I'm not clear, Kaushik. Ranjan is asking this question. What is intended to be located? What is intended to be located? Intended to be located, Ron. I promise, say out of 14 days, where I'm going to spend my days as the plan. That is referred as intended to be located. Next, moving from immovable property, Oh, I think Kaushik, you're referring to this subsection 4. Okay. Any service in relation to restaurant, catering, personal grooming, fitness, beauty treatment, health service, which is including cosmetic and plastic surgery. They say that look at the performance. The place where the performance has been done, that shall be called as your place of supply. I repeat, all services in relation to outdoor catering or restaurant. Personal grooming, you have this, these days, personal grooming has got more attention after COVID. Personal grooming includes your, yoga therapy or meditation. For yoga or meditation, people will take you to the serene places where it's very close to nature. Those places, they will give you a treatment for your physical ailment, for mental ailment. So wherever you are doing this performance, that's the personal grooming, that should be called as your place of supply. For a moment, I'm a organization for a fitness center. I say that I have a fitness center in Tamil Nadu. Part of my fitness center, say I have a set of 50 people who wanted to have a 10 days camp. I take all these 50 people from Tamil Nadu to Karnataka. So there is a forest, deep forest in Karnataka. I take them, make them to stay for a period of 10 to 15 days, train them all natural ways of yoga or say personal mental grooming. That case, though I am from Tamil Nadu, since this personal grooming is done in the state of Karnataka, my place of supply happens to be Karnataka. It will become an interstate supply, right? So in case of these listed services, performance based, section 12, subsection 4, the location where such services are actually performed, that shall be your place of supply. And if you see this list, students, all these are personal in nature. These are not corporate in nature. These are not B2B nature. Restaurant or catering service, personal consumption. Personal grooming, personal consumption. Fitness, personal. So for that reason, relevance of your registration status is not looked upon here. They say where you have rendered your services, that is good enough. Now, next entry, subsection 5, which deals with your training and performance. Training and performance. This training and performance, I'll give you a little backdrop, then we'll understand this provision. Training can be done physically, training can be done online. Performance appraisal. Performance appraisal, like you take example of your police or security forces. Every periodical basis, they have this internal health checkup and performance. They also conduct training for these organizations. So when we talk about training, they select manpower, they select the team people, they take to a particular location, then they give a training. The training can be done to the corporate, that is B2B. The training can be done to a non-corporate, that is other than B2B. So whenever I say B2B, that refers to a registered person. There could be a other person other than a registered person. So in case if I've rendered services to a registered person, my place of supply shall be the person where they are located. Example. So let's take example of Wipro. I have 50 to 60 senior coding team who have to be trained on something called blockchain technology. Wipro has got team all over India. They have chosen, say, 50 to 60 people who should be trained on blockchain technology. So when I render services or training on blockchain technology, I call Wipro as a registered person, where the registration available on record, that shall be my place of supply. Now, why is that Wipro taking that service? It's not for personal consumption. It is for business, furtherance of business. So here, my place of supply where registration is taken by Wipro, that should be considered. So what if Wipro says, Praveen, 5 locations are there, 5 branches, please build to 5 locations. These 50 employees were picked up from 5 locations. Then I, as a trainer, I raise invoice for all these 5 locations separately. This is in relation to registered person. Other than a registered person, then because it is consumption, my GST law, if you look at the theory of GST law, it is consumption-based taxation. Because this where services are actually performed, that will be called as my place of supply. Now, take example. I'm a motivational trainer. Say, Tata Foundation has got a charitable organization. I have to motivate these charitable organizations for conducting these activities with a charity. So part of that, they wanted to train their internal team, how to interact, how to train, how to augment funds, a lot of things. So when I conduct this training, and for a moment, assuming this foundation is not registered at GST, the place from where I have rendered the services, that should be called my place of supply. So students, relation to business, place of supply, registered person. Not registered person, where you are rendering the performance, that should be your place of supply. Let me see if there are any questions before going further. Kaushik says catering service. If there is a catering service in relation to immovable property, answer is yes. If I get a catering service in relation to the event which is being conducted, where the immovable property is located, that should be my what you call place of supply. Now, if immovable property is in one state, I am in different state. Definitely, because the consumption is happening in that particular state, I go with section 12, subsection 3. Even if I go for 12, subsection 4, this is performance based. Since my catering is being performed in a different state, that shall be my place of supply. So Kaushik is asking this question, catering, can we take it under 12.3 or can we take it 12.4? If catering is an independent activity, Kaushik, if catering is an independent activity, there's no attachments, there is no strings, there's no connection with the main accommodation, then performance based. If catering is part of this, like, what I can say is, when I go for Hotel Lalit Ashok, definitely the catering will be from Hotel Lalit Ashok. They don't entertain outside catering to be done. So when I'm doing the catering, where that immovable property is located, that will be taken into consideration. So 12.3, immovable property. If you go from 12.4, performance based, where the performance is happening, even that revolves to the same location. Let's go further. Section 12, subsection 6. Now, students, examination, this is one question which is tested for MCQ to see your presence of mind, right? Please understand carefully. This subsection 6 says that in relation to admission to a cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, education, entertainment, event, amusement park, or any other place and services ancillary thereto shall be the place where event is actually, or where the park or such place is located. They say that wherever you are giving a permission, admission, entry, in case of admission, in case of entry, this admission is to this cultural event. Like example, so there is a what you call this Ram Leela, like during Dashera time, you have this entry ticket where you have various cultural activities. This Rama, from your Ramayana, all your Itihasa will be performed. Artistic, occasionally the perform this what movie artist will be performing for a social cause. Sporting, so there is a runathon or there is a marathon. Scientific admission, so there is this nuclear planetarium, like we have this Baba Atomic Research Center or Indian Institute of Science. These organizations, they have some laboratory or some what you call education oriented, science oriented lab entrance. Like in Karnataka, you are in Telangana, you have this planetarium where the children will be shown how the galaxy looks like, how the distance is calculated between sun and moon. So all these kind of places, when we enter, there will be something called nominal admission fee. Whenever you pay this nominal admission fee, they say the place of supply for that event shall be the place, the location where that what you call this sporting or scientific or that event is park is located, right? The place of supply shall be the place where this event is actually held or the place where or park where this property is located. Generally, this is all immobile property. Education, sir, what if there is a cultural event? The cultural event is happening state to state. A particular troop of people are conducting. Take example, Bhagavad Gita. A troop of people conducted, interested to conduct Bhagavad Gita classes at a nominal entrance fee of 10 rupees. They move from state to state. Every place where this event is conducted, where you collect the admission fee, that shall be called as place of supply. For a moment, is ISKCON. ISKCON is conducting this recitation of Bhagavad Gita classes. Every state where they're conducting this session, the place where they conduct, that place where you take admission shall be your place of supply. In all other cases, this scientific, educational, entertainment, amusement park, the location where it is immovable property is there, that shall be your place of supply. So students here, what I have to consider, if event is held, the place where the event is held, which is in relation to this cultural thing, or where the park or such other place is located. The place where this property is located, that shall be your place of supply. Section 12, subsection 3, or this subsection 3. 3 2s are 6. So both subsection 3 and subsection 6, where this immovable property is located, that shall be your place of supply. To remember these provisions, at times you have to use shortcuts. Shortcuts to remember till you pass exam. Once you clear your exam, you have the reference to the book, the material. Always you can feel free to refer and then I give an answer. Moving on, section 12, subsection 7. Don't get confused between your subsection 6, subsection 7. There is an entry for admission to cultural artistic. Here also there is a reference to cultural artistic. But thankfully, both these provisions have some accommodation with respect to overlapping provisions. So here, I organize what? Cultural event, artistic event. In section 6, there is an admission fee. But here, it is an organizing. I do organizing an event sort of thing. Like example, say this is a software company. This, or I'll give a very good example. All of you have heard about Maruti. Maruti has got something called Founders Day celebration. Very, very unique and interesting event to understand. Maruti says, as a Founders Day celebration, all employees along with their family members come together for celebration. That's called cultural or some sports. So there is an event manager who organizes an event, which could be a cultural event, which could be an artistic, which could be a sports oriented. So wherever there is an organizing event of this sort, then I refer to subsection 7. If someone is organizing, I just pay admission fee. I just collect admission fee. Collecting admission fee where that immovable property is located, that is relevant. In relation to organizing, it is not mere admission, it is organizing altogether. Then I come to this entry called section 12, subsection 7, where I, as a service provider, I organize this cultural, artistic, sports, scientific, education, entertainment, conference, fair, exhibition, or similar events, or ancillary to any of them. I can render these activities to a registered person, to an unregistered person. I was talking example of Maruti, this Founders Day celebration. So if I organize this event to Maruti, I call this as a registered person. If I render this cultural activities to the police department of Haryana State Police or Maharashtra State Police. Maharashtra State Police, for a moment, if they are not registered in GST, then I call them as an unregistered person. So the provision says, if the services are rendered to a registered person, most of the case, this organizing this cultural, artistic event, etc., it's a part and parcel of their training activity. Then the place of supply shall be the such person where they are registered. If I have rendered services to an unregistered person, the place where the event is actually held, that shall be your place of supply. I repeat this point again. In case I have rendered services to unregistered person, where I have rendered this service, that shall be place of supply. So what if I have rendered the service to in relation to event which is outside India to unregistered person? Place of supply shall be location of the recipient. So here, you remember beginning of our class, I gave an example. There is a person called Rama. He wanted to visit to a place called Sri Lanka for a divine purpose, for a temple visit purpose. The tour operator arranges this particular event for visit to Sri Lanka. So there is a tour, there is a cultural event. What they do as a tour operator, I pick them, I take it to various temples, I show them all the locations there in India. And then I provide accommodation, I provide food, I provide local site, everything. I call that as a package. It's a cultural event. So in relation to event which is held outside India, the same, because it is referring to section 12, service provider is in India, service recipient Rama also happens to be India. They say the place of supply shall be location of recipient. If the recipient is in India, it shall be that particular place. It cannot be called as export out of India. Now, rule 5. So what if this event is conducted at multiple locations? I'll give an example. Say, I don't know how many of you have visited this Bharat Darshan, which is organized by this devotional tour operators. When I go on a tour called Bharat Darshan, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, Sindhu, Kaveri, and Narmada, all 5 sisters I'll be taken through. So the tour operator says, sir, I'll pick you up at, say, Hyderabad at this airport. From Hyderabad, I'll take you to north. From there, I'll take you to northeast. From there, I'll take you to west. From there, I'll bring to south. Again, I'll cover all other places and I'll drop you back at Telangana. Now, when you have this event done at multiple places, then the provision says, how do I identify the state where the services are rendered? Then this rule says, look at your books of accounts. Apply generally accepted accounting principles. As a part of package, assuming you have collected, say, 1 lakh from a customer, this entire package, you have been there in this state 2 days, this state 3 days, this state a day, this state 5 days, this state 2 days. Based on the number of days, allocate your generally accepted accounting principles, identify all these places, and then identify the place of supply. This is what Rule 5 teaches me with respect to your organizing events. Again and again, students, Section 6 talks about entrance. Subsection 7 talks about organizing an event. This is a thin line of difference between subsection 6 and subsection 7. Next. Transportation of goods, including mail, courier. Transportation of goods, including mail, courier. I'll give an example before we understand this particular provision. Let me come to my Excel file. So there is a supplier. There is a buyer. Supplier is in, say, Maharashtra. Buyer is in Karnataka. The goods travel from Maharashtra to Karnataka. Now, for transporting these goods, I need to have a support of a transporter. I need to have a support of a transporter. Typically, we call this transporter as GTA. Most of the cases, students, this provision is not properly understood where remittance of GST on RCM basis is done erroneously. So for that purpose, I recommend to understand this provision carefully. Now, this transporter could be scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3. The transporter could be operating from Maharashtra. That means when the buyer instructs the supplier to supply the goods, this seller finds a transporter who is based out from Maharashtra to deliver the goods to the buyer. Right? Scenario number 2. The transporter happens to be a transporter based out Karnataka who picks the material from Maharashtra, gives the delivery of goods to the buyer in Karnataka. Now, there is something called round trip. Usually, these transport vehicles, what they happen, they go from the starting point to the destination. They do the delivery of goods, wait there for 3-4 days to get the next consignment to go back to their place of origin. So here, the service provider, that is the GTA, he has the truck in Maharashtra. The supplier finds this truck is going back to Karnataka. So he requests this transporter to take back this material back to Karnataka. Scenario number 3. Altogether, there's a truck from Tamil Nadu went to deliver goods in Maharashtra. The truck is halting there in Maharashtra. Supplier finds that this truck of Tamil Nadu, which is going back to Tamil Nadu, can deliver the goods in Karnataka and then go to Tamil Nadu. So I can have my service provider, that is a GTA. Service provider GTA can render services from Maharashtra, can render services from Karnataka, can render services from Tamil Nadu. So here what is happening? The transporter from Maharashtra picks the material from Maharashtra, travels to Karnataka. Transporter from Karnataka picks the material from Maharashtra, gives the delivery in Karnataka. Similarly, a Tamil Nadu registered transporter goes to Maharashtra, picks the material, comes and delivers in the state of Karnataka. Now let's read the provision. The provision says, if this services are rendered in relation to transportation of goods, which includes mail, which includes courier. Mail, all your what you call postal service, mail, we call as a mail service. I can transport the goods through this RMS, the register post mail service. So I can get this transportation either through courier or also mail. If the services are rendered to a registered person, location of such person shall be my place of supply. If the services are rendered to an unregistered person, then location at which goods are handed over for transportation. Goods are handed over for transportation. So first, what I will do, I will examine this provision and then I'll come to this provision. So students, let us look at this provision called services are rendered to a registered person. Services are rendered to a registered person. Let's come back to our Excel file. Now, recipient, buyer. Buyer happens to be registered in Karnataka. For each of these cases, place of supply. Now, buyer is registered in Karnataka. Service provider is registered in 3 different places. Now, for all these 3 cases, my provision says the place where the buyer is registered or the service recipient is registered, that shall be your place of supply. So your place of supply happens to be Karnataka. Scenario 2, Karnataka. Scenario 3, Karnataka. All 3 scenario students, registered person That means my service recipient, from a transporter point of view, service recipient is registered in Karnataka, right? So here, what is the nature of supply? Nature of supply, service provider is in Maharashtra, place of supply is in Karnataka, interstate. Service provider is in Karnataka, recipient is in Karnataka, intra-state. Service provider is Tamil Nadu, place of supply is in Karnataka. Again, two different states. It will be a interstate. Now, this is relevant for simple reason. As per GST provisions, there is something called section 9, which talks about levy, under section 9, subsection 3, which talks about reverse charge mechanism. Notified goods, notified services, tax needs to be paid under reverse charge mechanism. So in this case, this buyer who happens to be a registered person in Karnataka, he has to pay IGST in case of scenario 1. In case of scenario 2, SGST and CGST. In case of scenario 3, IGST. This is the importance of your section 12, subsection 8. Let me see if there are any questions. Dhriti is asking this question. Section 12, subsection 5A, that is in relation to training. Training is rendered to a registered person, registered trainer as a registered person. Service provider is not looked upon, Dhruti. It is looked upon from the recipient point of view. If the services are rendered to a registered person, the place where such customer is registered. If the services are given to unregistered person, then where the training is rendered. So always, Dhruti, this is from the recipient point of view. They are evaluating the place of supply. If you ask me logic, so why we have to look at the recipient? Consumption-based taxation. My GST is a consumption-based taxation. That's the reason I'm looking at my registration status of my recipient. Kaushik is asking this question. Who is service recipient? Supplier or buyer for GTA? Kaushiki, services are rendered by transporter. A transporter who is rendering services will be called as service provider. Seller of goods is selling goods alone. Buyer of goods is a recipient of service. So when the goods are transported, it is transported by a transporter called as GTA. To give a better example, all of you have heard about VRL transport. VRL transport is registered service provider. VRL is into passenger transport, is into commercial transport activity. When we are talking about section 12, subsection 8, we are talking about transportation of goods. So in case if VRL is picking the goods from Maharashtra, I have to look at the bill issued by VRL. If the bill says VRL Maharashtra is picking the goods from Maharashtra to deliver at Karnataka, then I have to pay IGST. If the bill says VRL Karnataka is doing the transportation for delivery at Karnataka, then I have to pay SGST, CGST. Hope this is clear, Kaushiki. And Dhruti, hope this logic, why we have to look at the service recipient, is this clear, ma? Let's come back to the discussion further. Now, this is a provision which was inserted under subsection 8 in the year 2019. What they say, if the transportation of goods is to a destination outside India, then the place of supply shall be such destination. What is the logic why they have kept this particular thing. It's a policy matter. We have to just go with this provision to understand. So here, I'll give an example this way. So there is a manufacturer. I'll come to my Excel file. Say DHL is the service provider. Seller happens to be Mrs. ABC Limited. Registered person in, say, Uttar Pradesh. DHL service provider, I'll also say he's a registered person in Uttar Pradesh. Customer, this is XYZ, say GmbH in Germany. Now, the goods are picked up from factory of ABC Limited by this DHL. The goods travel out of India to the customer in Germany. In this case, the provision section 12(8) says that because the goods are going out of India, my place of supply shall be Germany. That is state code 96, other territory, other country. So the GST law says that though DHL is in Uttar Pradesh, though in this case, when I say seller, recipient of service from DHL. So here, DHL is a service provider, Uttar Pradesh. Recipient of service, the transportation, ABC Limited, is also in Uttar Pradesh. Since the service is for a delivery in Germany out of India, this provision says that Germany happens to be my place of supply. Examination, wait and watch. One MCQ from section 12, subsection 8 on this provision point of view. These are the provisions practically, intention of the examiner. In the course of your internship, have you come across these bills? Have you examined why the place of supply is not Uttar Pradesh? Why it's not SGST, CGST, rather why it is IGST? If you have done ITC, input tax reconciliation, DHL service provider is in Uttar Pradesh, customer is also in Uttar Pradesh. Ideally, logic should be SGST, CGST. But the GST at 2B mentions that the place of supply is something else and IGST is the input tax credit, right? For that purpose, they have mentioned this provision will be tested frequently in the MCQ. Moving on to section 12, subsection 9. 8 was for transportation commercial purpose. 9 is for your passenger transportation purpose. Law is very clear. A lot of complexities there. They have said, if the service recipient is a registered person, where that person is registered, I will call that as a place of supply. No complication, no dispute. I will identify the GST number. Based on the GST number, I will call that as place of supply. So what if the person is not registered? Then the place where such passenger embarks on the conveyance for a continuous journey, that should be my place of supply. The passenger embarks, that means the passenger starts his journey. Example, sir, I have done a flight ticket booking. When I'm doing a flight ticket booking, I have visited Delhi through a train. While coming back, I wanted to come back by flight. I hail from Kerala. From Kerala, I have gone on bus or train. I've reached Delhi. After my visit, I wanted to come back to Kerala. So when I do a ticket booking, I'm not a registered person. When I embark for this journey, continuous journey from Delhi to Kerala, my place of supply happens to be Delhi. This is what my section 12, subsection 9 says. What if a written journey shall be treated as a separate journey? So if I book like round trip, like a simple example, you have, say, you wanted to visit your hometown for any marriage or any cultural event. Delhi to Gujarat, again back from Gujarat to Delhi. So what they will do, Delhi to Gujarat, Delhi will be your place of supply. Gujarat back to Delhi, Gujarat will be your place of supply. Return shall be treated as a separate journey where you are an unregistered person. Very simple, very straightforward provision. So when the booking is happening through like board, conveyance, or a flight, they look at your registration status. On that basis, they will define place of supply. So what if right to passage is given for a future date and the place of embarking is not known? Like example, this Spice Jet, not Spice Jet, Jet Airways. Jet Airways, like Jet Airways is no more rendering services. I'll give one more example. Indian Airways, Air India, Air India. Air India, there was one instance reported recently where one of the passenger misbehaved with one another co-passenger. The co-passenger was very, calm, mild, and didn't create any ruckus. The passenger who created this instant misbehavior was very wild. He was very rude and rash enough. So Air India said, because there was a discomfort created, we will give you one offer. Whenever you want to choose your flight next time, we will give you a free trip. Now this is called right to passage. So when I have given a right, say worth 5,000 rupees, I don't know, this right can be used any part of India. Then I'll apply the provisions of subsection 2. Services rendered to registered person, that place where they are registered. Services not to a registered person, the address on record exists. Address not exist, the place where you are registered. So in case a right given for a future visit, future trip, future passage, where the service provider is registered, where this embarking on a conveyance happens, that shall be your place of supply. So students, subsection 9 is the easiest provision among all the provisions we have discussed. Next. Services on board. Now, having gotten to this board, section 10, we discussed sale of goods on board. This section, subsection 10 under 12, we discussed services on board. What are those services on board? Food, the moment you get onto this Bharat Jodo train or your Rajtatri, this Shatabdi Express, or you get into this flight, there's something called a meal which is provided. IRCTC provides this food which is called supply of service. Supply of food for human consumption, though it's tangible, by virtue of Schedule 2 of Central GST Act, is called as a deemed service. So in relation to this service on board, on conveyance, they say that any services which are rendered on board or a conveyance, including a vessel, aircraft, etc., the place of supply shall be the first schedule point of departure. Reason, it is practically impossible to determine where the consumption happens. I will identify the first schedule point of departure, and that will be considered as my place of supply. Like this example, say this Jan Shatabdi Express. Jan Shatabdi Express, for a moment, it starts at, say, Delhi. From Delhi, the first point of departure happens to be Nagpur. From Nagpur, it travels all the way to, say, mid of Bombay, from there to, say, Andhra or Telangana. If Nagpur happens to be a first point of departure, the services which are consumed on this Jan Shatabdi Express, my point of this place of supply shall be Nagpur. This is how I identify the place of supply in relation to a continuous journey. Next, moving on. Telecommunication service. Before this discussion, let me see if there are any questions so far. Shyam is asking this question. As a criteria for transportation and supply of goods are different, will GST on goods and transportation will be levied separately? I appreciate this question. For benefit of other students, I explain this question this way. Shyam has asked this question, very practical and wonderful connecting provisions. So Shyam is asking, so what if there is a supply of goods? In addition to supply of goods, transportation is also forming part and parcel of that supply. Will GST on goods and will the GST on transportation will be levied separately? To answer this question, there is a provision called composite supply or mixed supply. Make a note, section 8 of CGST provisions, where they say, if there is a composite supply, that means composite supply means there is a supply of goods, supply of services, bundled naturally together. Identify the principal supply. And that principal supply, what is the rate applicable? That should be identified for all services. So here, I have done the transportation of goods. I have done the transportation of goods where my sale of goods, my rendering of services, my sale of goods, my rendering of services, both go hand in hand. It's called naturally bundled. Then I call this as a composite supply. And in case of a composite supply, the law is very clear. Identify the principal supply. What is the rate applicable for the principal supply? The same shall be applicable for the ancillary supply. So Shyam, answer to your question, what is the rate applicable for the goods? The same treatment will be given for services. With respect to mixed supply, what is the highest rate? That shall be applicable for all goods, right? So this is the answer to your question, Shyam. If I have not answered or if further any question is there, feel free to post it back. So answer to this question, Shyam, the rate, the treatment given to the goods, the same treatment shall be given to services. Next, Kaushik is asking this question. Earlier you say buyer will be service recipient. In Germany case, you say seller is service recipient. Kaushiki, please understand this example once again, ma. In this whole example, Kaushiki, the transaction between seller and buyer is for purchase and sale. The transaction between buyer and seller is buyer and seller. It's for sale of goods. Sale of goods. The transaction between DHL and ABC Limited. Service provider is DHL. Service recipient is ABC Limited. So here, though the services are rendered to ABC Limited, the service is to the customer in Germany, which is going out of India. Then section 12, subsection 8 says that the place of supply shall be outside India. So here, customer XYZ is irrelevant. For DHL, who makes the payment? ABC Limited. Customer is ABC Limited, right? So from DHL service provider point of view, services are rendered to ABC Limited, where the transportation is to a place outside India, then it's called place of supply, Germany. So this is the answer to your Kaushiki. Hope I've clarified this point, Kaushiki. If not, you can post back your question. I'll re-clarify this point once again. Moving further, telecommunication. Telecommunication, I'll make it very, very simple. It's a lengthy provision. Subsection 11, if you read your institute material, it is a lengthy provision. I'll make very simple, a common sense point of view. If the telecommunication service is more like a fixed landline, fixed leased circuit, like you have this home landline, or even in a corporate office, you have this landline or internet-based leased circuit, where there is a fixed landline, where there is a fixed leased circuit, where those location where these services are rendered, that should be place of supply. So if BSNL or ITL gives the landline service in a particular state, that should be your place of supply. So what if it is a mobile connection? If a mobile connection is given to a recipient, registered person, the place where the services are rendered, where the service address exists, that shall be your place of business. Then, so what if this mobile connection is a prepaid service? In case of a prepaid, like I'll roam from state to state based on the selling agent who sells that service. Like I go to a local, this recharge shop. So the fellow, the shop owner, or precisely the agent or the distributor, from where the sale happens for prepaid services, that shall be your place of supply. If the services are rendered through voucher, these days we have this voucher concept where what you call Paytm or various apps are there through where you buy a voucher to renew your service. So from where these vouchers are being sold, that is the subscriber from where it is sold, that subscriber shall be the place of supply. So in relation to telecommunication, funda is very simple. Fixed landline, fixed lease circuit, that shall be your place of supply. If it is a postpaid connection, the address on record exists, that should be your place of supply. If it's a prepaid, the services where the cards are loaded or recharged, that should be place of supply. Next, banking and financial, very, very simple and straightforward, students. If the services are rendered to a registered person, where the person, the recipient is registered, that should be place of supply. If it is given to an unregistered person, the location where the recipient of service is there, that shall be my place of business. Now, I'll give an example of your unregistered person, banking and financial services. I go for applying a business loan. I'm a small-time trader. There is something called Mudra loan. As per Mudra loan, unsecured, collateral-free loan can be given up to a sum of 10 lakhs. Banker has given me an unsecured loan for 2 lakhs. Processing fee is subjected to GST. So the banker has collected something called processing fee of, say, 5,000. Because that's a service rendered to me, say I'm an unregistered person, then my location, where on record my location exists, that should be considered as my rendering services. So banking and financial, very, very clear. Something like your, what you call this flight subsection 10, board conveyance, wherever transportation of passengers. Registered person, on record where you are registered. Unregistered person, where the services are rendered. So here, where the location of person is there, that shall be your place of supply. This is in relation to banking and financial services. Next, insurance service. Insurance service follows the legacy of banking and financial services. That means to say, where the services are given to a registered person, location of such person. If the services are insurance is given to unregistered person, location where the services are rendered to that unregistered person, that shall be my place of supply. Now we come to the fag end of your advertisement services. Advertisement services, this is a lengthier next to your subsection 11, that is your telecommunication service. Section is short, the associated rule is the lengthiest rule. I'll make it very simple for you to understand. Advertisement services rendered to a state government, central government, statutory body, or a local authority, which is meant for a state, union territory. And a contract or agreement exists where a value is given with respect to state or union territory. Then that particular state should be place of supply. I'll give an example. If the state of Rajasthan or recently Odisha government, the state of Odisha has come up with the advertisement in many of different states, saying that there is a business investors summit happening in the state of Odisha. And this particular state has placed for advertisement in various states. So they have given a budget of 2 lakhs to the state of Karnataka, 5 lakhs to the state of Maharashtra, 3 lakhs to the state of Tamil Nadu, depending on the money given to agency for placing an advertisement in a particular state. Because I know when this Odisha government has given a package of say 50 lakhs, state specific they have given how to spend that money. Because I know how much to be spent in a particular state, that state shall be my place of supply. So what if this particular service is not sought by state government, rather it is sought by central government? Something like your Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Beti Padhao Yojana, or something to do with your Sukanya Samruddhi scheme, or something to do with your this Amrut Mahotsav. Now, government is coming with various different schemes, and they spend budget, means they spend money to bring awareness across India. And when they do this particular advertisement, I fall back to Rule 3. Now, this Rule 3 is one fantastic rule which caters to all these requirements in a different fashion. Students, I'm going to share this Excel file. This will be hosted after today's session. Every class, whatever examples I'm going to discuss will be saved in this Excel file. You can use as a reference before your examination for all this discussion. Now, for a moment, if the central government has given an advertisement in a newspaper, how do I identify my place of supply? They have come with this campaign called Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. And this particular campaign, they have given in northeastern states. So they say every state, they have given the budget how to spend. So they say in Sikkim, place these many advertisements. In say Mizoram, so much of money. When they give a budget, state specific, because I know how much money is being spent in relation to newspaper, what all states, how much have given the advertisement, that will be relevant for my place of supply. So in relation, instead of print media, that is newspaper, What if pamphlets or leaflets or diary or calendar or t-shirts are used as a modem for dissemination of the advertisement? They say the amount which is spent on material in each of such states. Like example, I have given 3 lakhs in Maharashtra. I've given 1 lakh in Goa. I've given 2 lakhs in Punjab and Haryana. Based on the amount spent in each state for the purpose of dissemination, based on the budget spent, you identify the place of supply. So what if this advertisement is placed by way of hoardings? Now you have this Amrit Kal Mahotsav. If you visit to this airports, most of India, wherever you visit airport, you will see a hoarding called like 75 years of independence, or say Republic India, Amrit Kal Mahotsav. Now, when you have these campaigns by the central government, based on the number of hoardings in a state, and each hoarding you have a budget. So in a state, how much money you have spent, that shall be your place of supply. So what if this campaign is through a train? This is one mind-boggling provision. I don't know how many of you have observed the trains. Few trains have a campaign like this: Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Sukanya Samriddhi scheme for the girl child, or this gold bonds for investment purpose, or this particular government subsidized loan to the particular sector of weaver community. Based on all these advertisements, if you see a train, all the bogies will be printed with this central government campaigns. Generally, I don't know how many of you have got into this Garib Rath. Garib Rath, as the name goes, it's meant for the middle class sector of people who cannot afford to go with this AC compartments. So these few set of trains which covers most of the India, they have these advertisements placed, where they say first calculate the length of the railway track in each state. For a moment, if a train starts at Kashmir, travels to Kanyakumari, again comes back to Kashmir, the provision says calculate the length of the railway track based on the IRCTC data. Then based on each state, the length of track, allocate the place of supply. Next, on the basis of advertisement on utility bills, like oil and gas, backside of the utility bill, you have this campaign based on the number of consumers in a particular state. Now, you have this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and this Pradhan, like our Prime Minister, every week comes out with its unique way of giving lectures, what is happening, what news things are happening. Radio is one of the modem where he spends for communication. So when the campaign is happening through radio, they say, identify the number of stations in each state on the basis of money spent to each of those radio stations, identify the place of supply. What if the advertisement is done through television? On the basis of the viewers, viewership, which is data, given by Broadcast Audience Research Council, they release this viewership on every quarterly basis. Take the data, previous quarter, apply for this quarter. If advertisement is done on internet, these days, internet, you have this Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook, or any other internet modem. Based on your internet subscribers in a state or union territory, they wanted to identify place of supply. And advertisement through SMS. Now you get all these updates through SMS from the central government. They say, take the data on the basis of the subscribers in each circle. Circle means every state. This information is available from TRI. That will be the basis for identification of my place of supply. So students, this is something to do with your subsection 14 in relation to advertisement service. We are at 9 o'clock. I'll take another 2 to 3 minutes of your time to take you through this MCQ which was shared to you earlier. Students, every class I'll come with this MCQ. This MCQ we will discuss at the end of the session. This is the idea to cover what you've learned till for that day. First question, sale of kitchen cookware by Mrs. Kaitan and Co. This seller is a registered person in Tamil Nadu to a customer, Mr. X, for a sum of rupees 32,000, and this customer is sought for his delivery in Bangalore. Bangalore happens to be Karnataka. Now, this is a case where seller in Tamil Nadu makes a sale of a kitchen cookware to a customer in Karnataka. Movement of goods. Refer to section 10, subsection 1, movement of goods. When there is a movement of goods, the point or the place where the termination happens for delivery, that shall be place of supply. Since the place of supply happens to be, the termination of movement happens to be in the state of Karnataka, my place of supply happens to be Karnataka. Point number 2, focus event manager, a registered person in Delhi. They have got an order to arrange for a family function to Mr. and Mrs. Kurana at their residence in Haryana. Event management includes planning, decoration, etc. Now, when we talk about event management, cultural, social, this revolves to section 12, services, subsection 7, which deals with your organizing. So when you deal with organizing, the place where the event is held, that shall be your place of supply. In this case, since the organizing the event is happening in the state of Haryana, applying the provisions of section 12, subsection 7, Haryana happens to be my answer. Place of supply shall be relevant for what? It shall be relevant for determination of delivery of goods or services alone. Answer, it is not delivery alone. It is for identification of delivery, identification of movement. It is for identification for installation. It is for identification on board conveyance. So answer A, ruled out. Determination of nature of supply. Answer is yes. When I refer to section 7 or section 8, interstate, intrastate, my answer, my place of supply is helping me to identify, to determine my nature of supply. Next, point number 4. Hungry Solutions, a registered person in Goa who undertake catering service for family functions or large gatherings. Determine the place of supply. So when I talk about my catering, restaurant or catering services, section 12, services, subsection 4, performance based. Determine the place of supply shall be location of service, location of, that is service provider, location of service recipient, location where services are actually performed. So answer to this question, service provider, not relevant. Service recipient, not relevant. What is relevant? Where I actually perform my services. So this is my answer. Then moving on, gaming props, a registered person in Himachal Pradesh, have been approached by Sun Solutions, a registered person, Uttaranchal, to conduct annual sports meet for their employees in the state of Haryana. So here, Himachal Pradesh happens to be a service provider. Service recipient is in Uttaranchal. And this cultural event they wanted to conduct in the state of Haryana. So if they have performed in the state of Haryana, this event is revolving to, it is going back to section 12, services, subsection 7, which deals with your organizing an event, etc. If the event is rendered to a registered person, then my place of supply shall be such registered person. Because these services are rendered to a registered person and registered person happens to be in Uttaranchal, my place of supply shall be Uttaranchal. So what if the service recipient is not in Uttaranchal, then it will be Haryana. This is how we interpret. Students, please understand your provisions, recipient, purpose, these are evaluated in your MCQs. Every MCQ is important. Final question. XYZ Consulting, a company architect registered in the state of Haryana. So when I talk about immovable property, that is architect, subsection 3 comes into mind. Has provided design and drawings in relation to property owned by Mr. Harish. Harish is a resident of Rajasthan, but this architect has given this design and drawings to a property which is located in the state of West Bengal. So when I identify this place of supply, neither service provider is relevant nor service recipient is relevant. The place where immovable property is located, that shall be relevant. So accordingly, my answer happens to be West Bengal, right? So this comes to the end of my MCQ. Quickly, I'll see if there are any questions so far. And then, wow, fantastic. Kaushiki has given her answers. Sorry, Kaushik, I didn't follow your answers. But however, I have identified my answers. Please cross-check and see if you have got the right or wrong answers. There is one question from Dhruti. Section 12, subsection 11, which deals with your telecommunication service. If prepaid amount is paid through online instead of card, generally, Dhruti, these are all called as a dealers, agents. Every person will be identified as agent, a point from where the sale happens, even through online. Like, see, instead of visiting a shop, I feel it is comfortable to buy from a particular online store. So when they buy from online store, they will be having a particular point where they have taken it for recharge purpose. So the place where this dealer has purchased, that should be identified for the purpose of place of supply. Telecommunication point of view, they, for all your prepaid services, a point from where the sale happens means the dealer from whom the sale happens. That is important for us to understand, right? So students, I have covered my entire section 12, section 10. Both are connected with domestic transaction of supply of goods, supply of services. So I request you to go back, just have a quick glance through of these two sections in your institute material and important MCQs at the end of your institute material with the MCQs what we have covered. Hope you have enjoyed this session. We will connect back again on 30th of this month, that's coming Monday, to discuss inbound, outbound transactions. Till then, good night, goodbye. Thank you.